Welcome to Kinky Knots Cafe's Proactive is the Way. We are back with part two of our special vault edition on Proactive is the Way, featuring the incomparable Brent Webb. Brent Webb is a mind power expert and motivational entertainer. This time, Tiffany and I are diving deep into the pearls from my interview with Brent. We will be discussing universal principles to supernatural gifts. We're breaking down the tools we all have to shape our destiny and manifest success that aligns with our true purpose. Hey Tiff, how you doing?
Hey, twin. I'm good. I'm well. How are you?
Hey Toya, you sleep?
Ooh, girl, you already know how we do this thing.
I
It's it's
know.
it's 4:39.
Okay, thank you for telling the folks the time. Folks, I sit here and I had to get Tiffany up super early.
Well, she ain't telling the truth because I got her up.
No, I was already up.
Oh, you was already up.
I was downstairs prepping for today, but I did get up at 4 a.m. So that I can 4 a.m. Eastern time, folks. Don't forget Tiffany is on the West Coast, but 4 a.m. Eastern time. And I was just prepping for my day, trying to get the day started. May has her they have a tournament going on.
Is she
Well,
doing good?
the first game she was struggling, and it's because I don't think they realized. I kept asking me, I was like, did they tell you that these tournaments were going to be aligned with collegiate basketball? Because you guys went from doing 8-minute quarters to a full 20 minutes nonstop. I said, I don't think you guys were prepared for that. I haven't been attending her practices. I've been sitting outside trying to do reading and things like that. But I don't think they realized that the time of those games the went from 8 minutes to 20 minutes. And so they were looking wore out. And on top of that, their games were at 8 a.m. in the morning. I don't want to give
So
them
wait, so these are 20-minute halves or
20,
20-minute quarters?
no, half.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, 20-minute halves.
Okay.
So like collegiate ball. Collegiate ball, I believe, is what? Is it 20-minute halves, I believe.
I don't know. I
So
barely
she's
even be
in,
watching.
yeah, so she's in AAU and they're doing 20-minute halves. And those girls, not only were they getting up early, their practices are in the evening, but now they're getting up super early to get there. But then in addition to that, playing 20 minutes. I say, oh, your coach needs to train you endurance. Now you guys need to work on running a little
Mhm.
bit more and building your endurance and your stamina to be able to play because you can just tell that their mind went south super quick. And that's it. That's because you guys aren't.
Their mind was fatigued.
It's very fatigued. Yes. But no, she tried to do her best. And then after the game, she was like, I said, okay, what are three areas of improvement? What are three areas of that you did well? She was like, I have no idea, and she went and was like, I just need to eat and sleep. And so she went and slept. And then they had another game after I talked to her a little bit about what I think she needs to do better and to
I
improve.
remember when she got so upset that one time. But anyway,
Yeah, but
oh
anyway, so
God.
the second game, she performed a little bit better. And then after the game, she was ready. She actually came to me and she was like, oh, this is what I need to improve on for sure, and etc. And I was like, yeah, okay, good, good. As long as you're thinking about it and you know what you need to do, keep practicing. Hopefully over time she'll get better at it. But yeah, so this weekend I've been doing tournaments and completely unexpected. I was not expecting to be doing this weekend, but that's okay. And how about you? What are you getting into? And Callie doing your thing?
And I feel bad. This time has gone by so fast and really enjoyed the Bay Area. And I have been meditating. I've been making it to the gym probably about 2 days a week, and I really wanted to do more like 4 to 5. I have been working on finalizing the documentation and all the deliverables that I need to open my clinic. Grand opening will be June 2nd.
Oh, yeah.
God willing, I must still
Mm.
say that because
It
there
will.
are still some logistics and things that I need to accomplish, to make this not only safe medical care, but also to, reduce the likelihood of, any type of litigation. Um, because it's a very litigious, as you know,
Is.
ju- uh, what is it, plight or whatever I gotta do.
But hey, folks get in folks' ears. So just be careful about
Yeah.
that. But I'm glad that you
Hmm.
are making sure that you have that you're paying attention to that and being cognizant that it exists, and you have to put in the right systems in place to help, protect yourself. All right,
Hmm.
fantastic. Okay. Well, so we're going to dive in a little bit, talk a little bit about Brent Webb and what Brent does. Want to go ahead and get started so that you can provide us your feedback, your analysis and thoughts on what he has shared with us today. I'm going to start off with an introduction by Brent, where he kind of shares his background and how he got involved into this particular business of being a mind power expert and motivational entertainer.
Well, my name is Brent Webb. I am a mind power expert. I've been doing that for 30 years. I was born in Ohio. We were talking about Ohio just a moment ago, off camera, but I was born there, a little tiny, chubby, only child. And when I was a kid, I mean, I was racked with anxiety, stress. And I came from a family where you had to worry about everything. You had to worry about things before they, weeks, months, years ahead of time. You were worrying about stuff before it ever even got close to happening. And so growing up like that, I mean, I was just a mess. And as an only child, I had parents that worked different shifts. And so I was kind of by myself a lot. I wanted to become a magician. So, I was always doing little magic tricks. And I went to the library one day and I got a book called The Magic of Believing. I thought it was a magic book on magic tricks. It was all about the power of the mind. And so I was 7, 8 years old. And really, that book changed my entire life because it started to show me, wow, we have this amazing supercomputer in our minds and none of us know how to use it. Like we can do amazing things with it, but we're not. So I really started, just processing all of that and all through school, I was still kind of thinking about being a magician, but I was doing this as well. Went on the road when I was 18, met a lot of celebrities, Don Rickles, Joan Rivers, started doing shows. And then in my 20s, I did a meditation retreat at a monastery in Tibet. And I was telling the monk said, what do you do? And I said, oh, I'm a mentalist. I can read your mind. I can, he said, think of any word. And I did. And he said, lumberjack. And he told me the word I was thinking of. I didn't write it. I didn't say anything, no trick. And he's like, what you do is not impossible. We're all connected to each other. Our minds are connected. So from that point, I scrapped the entertainment and I've been doing this, which is teaching people how to unleash this mind power to transform their life. So, like I said, this is my 30th year of going all over the world and just teaching people, hey, there's something more than what you think.
Absolutely. Yeah, I found your story quite fascinating. I think I had shared within my interview notes to you that we're going to talk a little bit about that idea of mind power and how folks or how you help educate folks with regards to how to leverage it most effectively and efficiently. First of all, that it exists. I'm so tired of folks trying to act like this stuff doesn't exist. But then, how do we leverage it effectively and ethically? So we'll definitely jump into that here. This year, I shared we are focusing on Ray Dalio's book, principles. Last year, we had a series where we focused on helping individuals to develop themselves. And we had a primary target audience of folks who are just trying to design their lives, better understand who they are, etc. And within that, we talked about principles. And so this year, I really wanted to focus on that because what I found when we were doing our interviews, Tiffany and I, which is my co host, did our interviews together, we found that we had principles, but we never leveraged them. Or we never wrote them down and leveraged them often. We were not consistent. And so that's what we're going to discuss here today. So Ray is really big on principles and states that they were really the driving force for him finding success at a very early age in his life. And he defines principles as this fundamental truth that serves as the foundation for behavior that gets you what you want out of life. They can be applied again and again in similar situations to help you achieve your goals quickly. So you support your clients with mindset makeovers. Do you have a specific program that is applicable to all, or do you have to tailor the program to each individual?
Well, what I do, my work is normally in, I do big events, big seminars, big live shows, that sort of thing, all over the world. I mean, I'm leaving next week. I'll be in Japan again. I'll be in New Zealand. I was just there a few months ago. So I do that a lot and in person. We do maybe a weekend and 2 day, 3 day, that sort of thing. Online, what I'm really doing is just getting the word out that it is possible, that you can change your life. So I'm not so much, there's a lot of people that are trying to sell the next course, you have to do this, you have to take this course, you have to walk across hot coals, you have to go sit in a cave and meditate for 2 days. You don't have to do any of that. What you have, what you need is already inside you. So it's just learning how to unlock that. So what I do is I do these kind of shows, I do TV, I do radio, I do podcasts, and I just tell people, no matter what you're living now, it does not have to be that way if you want to change it. Right. So, it's just giving people just some people, it's a complete awakening to the fact that there is something else. Some people are just it's like they're in a tunnel their whole life. They're born, they die, and they never break out of that, the confines of that. So, I think that's kind of what I do. Anybody can learn it. Anybody can do it, because it does take, you're going to have to decide what your principles are. You're going to have to decide what your intentions are. We are so bad about, deciding, making a New Year's resolution, and then falling back on it the next day. Mm-hmm. Said, these are our principles. This is my principle. This is what, and then somebody does something and we let them slide. So we have to finally just draw that line in the sand and set an intention, because that's magic. When you actually follow up your willpower, your any of that with an intention that you're actually going to do it, it just changes everything.
It really does. And I'm glad that you brought that up, because it's so important that we do have some sort of standard that helps to guide us and lead us. And when we're intentional about following that, you will find that success comes much easier. Not that you're not going to go through a struggle per se, but it becomes easier. I think you get stronger at being able to overcome certain adversities or stumbling blocks that cross your path. All right, so that was the introduction by Brent. What were your thoughts about the introduction there?
I was intrigued that, and I think kind of like he had to discover that, because everybody has to have a story, right? Mm-hmm. At 8 years old, he, came upon this book. He discovered this book that he thought was about magic because he wanted to be a magician. I don't know. I feel like that's a stretch. Did you really remember that from your 8-year-old life? But no, he
about when you were young and what you wanted to do, and
I was like, did he make that up to fit this story? I don't know. That's what I was just thinking at first. But no, he's brilliant though for what he was able to I like the way he was able to articulate his his findings or his discovery or his, research, because ultimately that's what it ended up being. And how he took it from showmanship, entertainment, to being a teacher, and found, the utility in that, to help people. Because of course magic could help, but I think it's more entertaining, right? The concepts get lost, because people are so fascinated, but he's fascinating in a different way. He's a teacher. And so he's teaching very profound messages. I mean, if we would just listen, if we would just tune in, we'll be able to tap into greater potentials that we have, because and maximize and optimize our potentials, as far as the mind and the complexities of the mind are. So when you have somebody that has that insight, that was blessed with that gift. I think it was a gift. I think the book was just a side, there's always a side piece somewhere. There's always a sneaky link. So I think that was just his, what am I trying to say? I think that just was a starter.
The catalyst.
Yeah. The catalyst. Yeah.
The catalyst that permitted him to think differently, because he could have went the of being just a magician and being a performer. We all are in some elements. But what I really appreciated was that he saw that there was more. He saw that there was more in something, well, the book that he was a book about magic was really helping to enlighten him that we can use our minds in a way that is much more a contribution, I think, to society than how we've been leveraging it today. What you will find, and we'll probably get to talk about this a little bit more as we get into that piece where he gets to talk about what he does from a mind power and how he allows or helps individuals to really tap into their mind most efficiently, is that I really believe in our country, which is why he's on the eastern side, receptive to what he was trying to introduce to us 16 years ago. Because if you notice, the countries he says that he travels to,
they're all in Europe.
They're all in
Asia.
Asia, Australia, New Zealand. He's on that side of the world where they are a little bit more receptive to the idea of the capacity of our mind and what our mind has the ability to do. Hide it. And I said that over and over. I said, why is it in the US we hide our capabilities? And we'll get to talk a little bit about that more later. Let's go ahead and dive into one of the questions that I posed to him about principles and how he helps us to understand how it's so important to be aware, how it's important
awareness.
How it's important to be. I brought up vulnerable, but he talked about how we need to be invulnerable, but
wear a cloak of invulnerability.
Cloak of invulnerability, and listen to a little bit about how confidence plays into us finding success.
Well, I think the first thing and the most important thing of all is awareness, because without knowing what's going on inside your mind 24/7, we have 60,000 thoughts a day. Think about it. 60,000 thoughts a day. And guess what? 80% of those thoughts are negative. And they're going on without us really knowing. Our subconscious, they're going on. So we're living in that feeling. Okay. 80% of those thoughts are negative. Things like, oh, I wish I wouldn't have done this in the past. If I hadn't done this, this wouldn't have happened. She wouldn't have left. He wouldn't have this. What does Mary think of my dress? I think the boss is mad at me. It's all that crap. And then it's all the stuff we're worried about in the future. This is going to happen. This is going to happen. So we're thinking about those two things. And the moment that we can change the current present moment where our power is, we don't want it. We always want the next moment. It's like, we're making a cup of coffee. We don't want this moment. We want the moment where we're drinking the coffee. It's the week. It's Monday. We want Friday night. We're waiting for Friday. Man, it's Friday, right? I got to go to work for the next month, but then I get a vacation. So I'm gonna push through this, right? You're always discounting the current moment for either the past, thinking it was so great. We overestimate the past always, like it was some amazing, oh, it was just amazing, because we forget the bad things and we only keep usually the good things. So we overestimate the past and we underestimate the future. So we're here, but we don't make any kind of moves. We're kind of in a box. We're in our comfort zone and we stay there. So principles of success awareness. You got to know what's on your mind. So I tell people, hey, one of the things I teach in seminars online, first thing, get a Post-it notepad like this, take a pen, marker, make a couple of drawings on a couple of these sheets, a heart, a happy face, whatever. Stick one on your wall somewhere, stick one in the fridge, stick one in the bathroom, stick one in above your desk. Now, throughout the day, when you're doing something and you see that note, that is your thing telling you, stop, figure out what's on your mind. Because what happens is it's going on subconsciously. You don't even know what's going on up there. By stopping, you freeze for a second. Okay, what's on my mind right now? Well, I'm thinking about my 3rd birthday party or whatever it is. You don't judge it. You don't get pulled into the feeling of it. You just write it down. And you do that for a day, 2 days, a week. At the end of a week, you're going to see all of this useless, moronic stuff that's coming up inside your mind that no longer serves you. And it's the kind of thing that once you see it, once it comes out in your life and you actually are reading it, it'll start to disappear because it doesn't have any power anymore. It makes no sense. The first 8 years of our life were programmed. We come out as a blank slate. A kid is not homophobic, racist, sexist, none of that. A kid is a complete blank slate. That is learned behavior. It's programming. Your parents, and it's not always their fault. They learn from their parents and from back. You have all the generational trauma. You have the school, you have the government, you have the media telling you you're too fat, you're too this, you're not blonde enough, you're not this. So those first 8 years, you're recording all of that. It's like you have a tape recorder in your head. You're not good enough. You're too stupid. A woman can't do this. A guy doesn't cry, whatever it is. And then when you're 8 years old, the tape stops. And now for the rest of your life, anytime you're on autopilot, which means anytime you're not thinking, your subconscious takes over, that is the tape that's running. I'm not good enough. It's the stuff you did when you were a kid. It makes no sense. It's not logical. It's not, you weren't mature. It was a response to sometimes just a survival response for somebody in a lot of trauma. But that's the tape you're living with. So you got to figure out what's on your tape. And to do that, you just pause. It's the easiest thing. You can get 80% of the way to changing your just by the awareness, because you will be blown away by what is going on that you don't know, that you don't even realize is happening anymore. And once you start to see that, like I said, it just starts to go away. It starts to evaporate. It just can't stand up to the scrutiny. Once you drag it into the light, it's like, what does this mean? This makes no sense. And it just goes. So it doesn't take work. It just takes the time of deciding, I'm going to take some time to see what's on my mind.
Right. What about external factors and how do those play into that? Because what you're sharing right now are internal factors, right? How do we help to alleviate negative thoughts that cross our mind because of what we're thinking? But what about when you have things that are kind of outside of your control, where you have external influences that are constantly providing you imagery, because, we do that. We leverage imagery, we leverage, and I'm going to say it's a gift of mind control or a piece of mind control that people do to help to tell you you're not good enough, or the sly comments and different things of that nature. How do individuals help to maintain that sense of awareness and overcome those instances to have a better mindset?
Well, I think you have to have a compassion for everyone else, because you don't know what anyone else's struggle is. And you have to remember, it's almost like everyone out there is a mirror of us. And what we see in someone, and this is true, what you normally don't like in someone else is something you don't like in yourself. And so it's reflecting back to you. So if you think everything, if you go out with the attitude of the world's an evil place, everybody's out to get me, I'm never going to make it, you're going to manifest that, because you're going to live in that reality. You have to like I said, not just the awareness of what's going on in your mind, but also the awareness of this outer world. Just like you said, we're in two worlds. We've got the inner world, which is the important, it's the number one world. It's where thoughts, ideas, feelings, all of the things that, are really invaluable. Like you can't buy them. Things like confidence, things like love. You can't go out into the outer world and buy love. You think you can. You think you can find the right person and you'll have love, but you can't.
Right.
The outer world is people, things, it's concrete things. And then these two worlds are connected. It's like if you and I go to the movies and we sit down and the movie starts, we're both in the same room, we're both in the same place. And the James Bond movie starts, but maybe I've seen it or maybe I don't like it. So all of a sudden in my inner world, now you're watching the movie, you're into it. I'm thinking about my birthday party when I was 7, what I'm going to have for lunch later. I'm in my own world. So when you think we have two worlds here, the outer world, somebody comes up to us and says, you look horrible today. We take that in the outer world into the inner world. Oh my, we feel it. We suffer every time we see that person. We get a pit, feeling in the pit of our stomach. You have to start to realize what we're doing is we're allowing the outer world to affect our inner world. That's what we do 90% of the time. If those worlds are connected, you have to remember what you're doing inside can affect the outer. So you can start changing that outer world. You can start changing your circumstances by what you're thinking, by shifting your mindset slightly. The outer world can start to change. I mean, you have to have almost a stupid belief in yourself, so much so that you have like a cloak of invulnerability, because whatever somebody says to you, if you take that in, you take that poison in, you're accepting it, you're going to ruin your life. If, however, they say it and you just let it bounce off, you don't let anything anyone says penetrate your shell, everything starts to change, because they don't hold any power over you anymore. You can't worry about what, Mary thinks of your dress, what your mom's going to think of this job choice and this and that and this. That starts to go. So again, it's just finding your center, and you become powerful because you can't be swayed by everyone else. You can't be swayed by anyone's opinions. You can't be swayed by what you just said, the media, the advertising, none of that, because now you're in your own power. You believe in yourself. And so you are changing your inner world, but you're also changing your outer world. You're gaining confidence. People look at you different. I mean, that's how you do it. You don't wait for somebody else to do something that's going to change your outer world. You have to start doing it, and you got to start inside.
I like what you said about we have to become vulnerable, but vulnerable in a sense that the thought or the comment, it comes in and it exits.
Yes.
We've already built within ourselves a level of confidence, a level of security within who we are, right? It's finite. You cannot sway me anyway based on how you feel about me, because as you share, those things, those are not within our control, right? All right. Wow, that's phenomenal. Thank you so much for sharing that and helping individuals understand how that works, because it is difficult. Those thoughts come in and people hold on to them. And then
Yeah,
it's
that
eat
you
fester.
and you take what people don't understand, and this is another thing that's very important. You have to know that what humans do, and we're the only species on Earth that do this, we take the thought and we take the feeling and we connect them. So what happens is, you see two dogs fighting or two birds fighting, and they walk away from each other. Those two birds aren't going, oh man, the next time I see that bird, I'm going to kick his butt. They're not thinking about it in the next moment. Okay, it's over. Kids do the same thing. Kids can yell and have a temper tantrum, be laughing the next second. It's real, right? What we do is we live it in our mind. We break up with our girlfriend. She drove a red pickup truck. And now every time we see a red pickup truck, the feeling of the girlfriend comes back. That we get the knot in the stomach. We start sweating. Right. It's because we don't want to work through something. And you nailed it exactly. We won't let it pass through. That's what we do. We take it and we go, I don't like this. So instead of saying, I don't like it, go, we say, I don't like this. Come inside, and I'll hold you inside me with willpower. And that's what we do. I don't like this. I don't like that. And if you talk to somebody and they'll say, don't go there with me, that means you're getting close to whatever that is in them that triggers them. Oh, don't go there with dad. The things you can't talk about with your dad. Right. Though that's his stuff. That's the stuff that we've stored inside. We won't let it pass because it's painful. And we do the same thing with the good things. Oh, the first car we ever had, we're going to keep that. The first time I got kissed, I'm going to keep that. Right. So we try to store all these things like a hoarder. And then we're not living in the present. We're living in all this stored illusion that we've kept in ourselves. So getting rid of that stuff, like I said, it doesn't take so much work as just awareness. Because soon as you realize, a lot of it just starts to go. It doesn't take too much extra effort. I always tell people, it's not like a therapist. They are in business to take your money every week and make you relive your trauma. So you're reliving it. And at the end of the therapy session, you go home. Guess what? You're not, you just drug up all those emotions. You're going to be feeling that all night long and maybe tomorrow too. Right. You don't have to do that. You don't have to relive all that crap. You went through it. It's over. Now it's time to just let it release its hold on you. Right. And then what happens is every time you release something, little, small, doesn't matter, you get a little bit of willpower back. You only have so much. And over our life, a little bit here, a little bit here, we're holding all this crap in. As soon as we get that back, what a successful person does, and I've worked with celebrities and billionaires, and what they understand that most people don't, is when I get that piece of willpower back, I'm going to focus it on the project that matters or whatever. Every time I work through something, I take that life force energy, I take that willpower, and then I focus it. So that's what they're constantly doing, pulling back their willpower and then focusing it where it matters. And that's what successful people do. They're not worried about what everybody thinks and what they've got to do, 6 years from now. None of that. They live in the moment and they know about, how to kind of use their energy to because it's all energy. We're all, when you walk into a room and two people are fighting and you walk in and it's quiet, but you feel that in the air, that's the energy. Right. When you see a negative person that lives, my aunt, totally negative. She goes through the to get her car washed. Somehow the window comes down, the car gets filled with soap. Who does that happen to? A negative person, right? Her husband's negative. They sit all day long and it's all about their aches and their pains and that's their life. They live in that. Mm-hmm. It's like a negativity vortex. So again, your mind can set you free of all of that. It doesn't matter where you are, what you're doing, how much money you have, nothing. All it takes is your awareness to start getting you out of the mess.
Such a simple concept.
It is, right? It's so simple. It's too simple.
It's too simple. You're like, is that it? That's it. Yes, that is it, folks.
I thought that was funny about what he said about his aunt. He was like, I don't know why I go to the casino. I don't even know why I go to this casino. I never win. And he said, then don't go. What are you going for?
Right, you already put in the air that you're not going to be successful, that you are not going to win, right? And so
yeah, but Toya, I honestly feel like we should hold people accountable to stupid statements like that. Well, it's not enough of that. We don't make them aware of it. So how can you have awareness about something you're not aware of? You have to be made aware of it.
Correct. Which is
right.
Which is
why. So she has no awareness. That comment when you said it, I was like, then that's somebody who's not aware. It's kind of like when you slip up and use the wrong word, but you keep going, you didn't stop. It's because you weren't aware. You wasn't really present at the time that you were saying it. You just said something. Mm-hmm. But anyway, that's another topic.
Yeah,
I'll go off topic.
I really love the fact that he used the fact that we have to be aware first, and everything starts with setting an intention and then using a level of awareness in order to begin to take inventory with regards to where we are within our life, what we are doing, what are the systems that we have to put in place to get to where it is that we want to go. And he just brought up the fact that we're constantly living in the past, right? And in the past, not really being thoughtful about the future, and not understanding that when we take time in the present moment, living in the present moment, to be reflective about where we are today, then it's very difficult for us to propel ourselves forward. I like the fact that he talked about the cloak of invulnerability. Having you have to be vulnerable, though, I think, in order to have that cloak of invulnerability. And
that's basically what he's saying. You have to have an awareness of of the contrasting concepts. You do.
Right. If you don't accept the fact that, you are someone who has these respective negative habits or bad habits, which requires you to have a level of vulnerability, right?
Mhm.
Then to be able to put on that cloak of invulnerability to help you um, for that instance when someone is coming and attacking you. And people are so clever, right? They are clever at attacking you in a way that you might not know that they're attacking you, but you might leave the respective in exchange and you're like, wait a second, they were attacking me, right? But having that cloak of invulnerability to say, to brush that off to the side and say, okay, is this something even worth thinking about? Was that of some substance that's going to help me? Or
Right.
should I just let this roll off my shoulders so that I can move forward? And we really sit, and as I shared with him, I said, people, we sit there and we mull over that so much, mull
Ruminate big time.
over people who are not even at our level, or people who don't even have, they're not in the, they're not on our level, they're not within that respective discipline, and we're leaning on that respective advice to help propel us forward, and we get stuck there. And
Hmm.
so I really like the fact that he said, okay, let's take inventory of where we are today, so that we can begin to put effective systems in place to help us improve within our life.
I
Would
think he framed it as energy, right? Like, so you're doing all that ruminating about a concept, about something that happened to you, or just basically the negative, the 80%,
mm,
right? Of those 60,000 thoughts per day, and 80% of them being negative, we tend to ruminate on the negative ones, right? And then what it does is it propels for, it actually ends up robbing you of your energy. And he's saying to restore your energy, to preserve your energy, right? To be in self-preservation mode. Yeah. And you need to let it go. So then you have now opened up that additional reservoir. So you're able to pull from that to make yourself great again.
okay, so let's talk a little bit about where he is in his life. The next question I had posed was, if he felt like he was at the pinnacle of his profession, right? And I
Mm-hmm.
asked that question because I really wanted to understand or help others understand that in this life, we're never complete, right? And you said it
Mm-hmm.
a couple podcasts not too long ago that our life, what we are embarking upon, it is actually a journey. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
it's not like it's a race and that there's going to be a finish to this. So
Mm-hmm.
let's listen to what he has to say about where he is in his life and how he views growth and development.
I think anytime you think you are at the top or you are wherever you want to be, you go stale because you've got to keep pushing. Now, you have to have a goal, which most people don't have a goal. I want to be rich. I want to be in love. They don't have a set goal. I see this in my mind. That's what I'm striving for. And
Mhm.
if they do, well, the problem is they keep worrying when it's going to come and when it's going to happen, and they kill it because they've set this intention, but it's like you order something from Amazon. You're not, where's my package? Every hour calling, you're not, right? It's just going to show up. We have to get to the place where we're not complacent. I'm not in my comfort zone. I mean, I've had cancer. I've had a drinking problem. I've had, pain pill addiction. I've had smoking throughout my life. And every one of those things, oh, this is a health issue. No, it's not. This is a mindset issue. This is a mindset issue. This is a mindset. They're all mindset issues.
Right.
So when I faced cancer, I went through it because I realized, I fought through it because it is a mindset thing. The way I'm looking at this, the way I'm dealing with this is going to change things for me. And it did. And smoking, drinking, all of those things.
Mm-hmm.
You just have to realize the outer world is not to blame. No matter what happened to us, and things happen, horrible things happen. But at some point, you have to let that go for yourself, because we're holding all of these things. So I think at this point, for the rest of my career, I just want to do this. I want to go around the world, and I just want to teach people there's more. This is how you do it. This is how you unlock your mind. This is how you get your dreams. Because what happens is we're connected to each other. There's a universal consciousness, just like the monk taught me. And that's how he was able to tell me lumberjack, the word I was thinking of. But that universal consciousness we can raise by doing this. If we are all working together, we're all being positive. The universal consciousness starts to expand and starts to raise. And that's how we change the world, because we're in a mess. I mean, everybody's fighting, and it's political, and it's all this meaningless crap. It's always pitting us against them, and you against me, and man against woman. Right. It's all a man-made thing. So you just remember, you're important. I don't care where you are. You have greatness in you. You were created for something, and you've got to find your passion, do some different things, find out what it is that you love, and start doing that. Everything changes.
Right. Yes. I like that. That what you shared about the challenges that you've had, and realizing it was just something so simple as your mindset helped you to overcome. Like what you stated in terms of meditating. I had watched a YouTube video with Steve Harvey, and he was sharing how he wakes up every day at 4:30 a.m. and he gets into the meditation, and how when he sits down, and it's prayer, he called prayer. Well, he actually separates the two, prayer and meditation. He's like, prayer is to God, meditation, I believe he said, is something where he focused on to try and find answers, and which you shared, that the answers, they are within us. The answers are there, but we don't provide ourselves enough time to reflect on, or just do a self-reflection, right? I know that though there are some times when you do, and you're sitting there, and maybe you just don't have enough experience. Maybe you, are younger, if you will. What about for younger individuals who don't have a lot of experience, but they need to find answers? I'm assuming that population would have to do things a little bit differently.
Yeah, I mean, I tell everyone, though, start with 5 minutes, okay? Because here's the thing. Your mind is not used to being trained. It doesn't want to be. So if you try to sit down and I do 45 minutes in the morning, 45 minutes in the evening. Okay, every day. I do 20 minutes of chanting in the morning, 20 minutes of chanting in the evening. Okay. And if I have to fly somewhere, I'll be up at 1 a.m, 2 a.m. to do it. I've just made that my intention. I have made that as one of my principles. Okay. I'm going to do this every single day, and I do it. I don't want to walk every day. I go out and do it. I'm a vegetarian. I don't eat meat. I don't eat dairy. I don't eat cheese. None of that. Okay. Mm-hmm. Trust me, a cheese pizza sounds really good sometimes, mm-hmm. but that's part of I've made that a principle. That's the thing when you decide to set an intention on it, right? Mm-hmm. So sit down 5 minutes, close your eyes, cross-legged on the floor. And all you got to do to start, count to 20. When you get to 20, go to 1. When you get to 20, go to 1. Because at the very first week, 2 weeks, your mind is going to constantly 1, 2, 3. What am I having for lunch? Oh, my back hurts. Oh, my leg hurts. Boom, you go back to 1. 2, 3, 4, 5. Well, I remember that fight I had with Mary back in 1997. What am I going to? 1, 2, 3. You constantly do that, because what you're doing is you're training your mind. You're teaching it how to focus. Right. When I was in school, my teachers used to say, Brent, you need to learn how to focus. And finally, one day I said, did I miss that day? Because I don't remember ever learning how to focus. And the teacher thought about it, and she said, you know what? I didn't either. Because we don't learn how to focus. They tell us to do it. And so you strengthen that muscle every time you pull back. It doesn't sound like you're doing it. You feel like you're doing anything. 1, 2, 3. But I'm thinking. Oh, okay, 1, 2. But you are. You're pulling back your power, your strength every time. You're strengthening that muscle every time you pull back your focus. So you do that in meditation, and then maybe next week you add a minute, and now every morning you're going to do 6 minutes, and you do it very, very, very slow. You just get your mind used to it. Eventually, your mind is going to go, this guy's not going to let me out of this. Mm-hmm. He's obviously going to do this. I'm going to just slide to the back and let it happen. And that's what will happen. Your mind will stop fighting you. I get up every morning, I do all of my morning practices, my meditation, but my first idea is, and a lot of people don't like this, but it works for me. My mind is against me. There's the lower mind that's fighting me. I just feel like it's somebody who doesn't want me to win this game.
Mm-hmm.
And if I look at it that way, it's like a little kid, if my mind says, Brent, you look a little fat in that shirt today, I will go, I named the voice, Carl. And I go, there goes Carl again. Carl is so funny. And you look at the voice in your mind like a little kid, a little bratty kid who's going to just try to get you mad. And it takes all the power away because it's not the voice of God. It's not the future. It's this stupid voice that's just triggered to say horrible things to you. And so you name it. I know that's another trick that people can use. Name the voice.
Yeah, which is why you said earlier, if we have that level of awareness and are aware and can always pull ourselves back when we begin to speak negatively, then we start to speak positively every time that occurs. When we get prepared for an activity such as meditation, we now are sitting, going through the process of practicing how to focus. And now that voice becomes less negative and maybe not as, how do I want to say, loud. And we have the ability to quiet it. So that's actually a good point that you brought up, because I will say that I've tried to meditate. I can't do it. I don't tell anyone that I meditate. I'm like, I am not a meditator. I could do some breath work, but I cannot meditate.
But you can't see that. And you're affirming that you're not a meditator by saying, I can't meditate. I'm not a meditator. I'm telling you.
No, you're right.
The counting to 20 is the trick. Counting to 20 and pulling back. If you sit there and don't do anything, your mind's going to run you over. But the counting tricks your mind. It's like, oh, look, we have something to do. It's like a dog with keys. You're going, hey, look at this. And the mind's going 1, 2, 3, 4. You're kind of you're transcending it. You're going above your lower mind into that subconscious. Right. So it's like a trick, but any trick you can do is positive. That's going to help you.
Yeah. The one trick that I do is I set an intention. So if I force myself to focus on a thought, it can't be blank. But if I focus on a thought and that's all I'm focusing on, then my mind runs on that thought in that direction. And so that's how how do I say, I help myself to say, okay, well, this is my type of meditation. This is what's effective for me, because it's almost like I have to be active and achieving something versus just a blank mind, right? And that helps me as well. I think that's been kind of effective for me, but I do want to get to that state. So I'll try the count to 20 and see if I can just, remove all thoughts and get to that point. Thank you for that piece of advice.
That I on parts of what he was saying, and hopefully I'm not reading this incorrectly, but when he was stating that bad things happen to people, and basically I think you can't oversimplify something like that, because if you think about mental health, you got to think about when people experience traumatic events, how it impacts them, right? Mm-hmm. And are they even in the mindset to even be able to move forward? Like, I think we're missing some pieces along the line there. Like, okay, so just can you give a brief example of how did you move through something, that bad that happened to you, that, because some people have things that happen to them that are just so terrible, so traumatic, mm-hmm. that it impacts them their entire life. Like, I mean, we have a sibling that's like, right? Like, we don't know what happened, mm-hmm. but something happened and this person has never really like recovered, But then also, let me just, not to bring that up, but using myself as an example, because when he was talking about this, the thing with what happened with me as a child, and I always tell you about like, being conflicted with my sexuality, how that experience, that would happen to me from someone who was supposed to love me, someone who was actually supposed to protect me, right? Because they're almost 10 years my senior.
Right.
Um, how that ruminates kind of in my mind, for the conflict I have had all these years with my sexuality, how they were, part responsible for that. So I feel like in that part of his discussion, that he kind of oversimplified the complexity of moving forward for some people,
Mm-hmm.
because some people just cannot move forward. If you think about it, some people, what trauma does? It actually rearranges your neural pathways. It rearranges the chemicals in your brain. For some people, it rearranges those neural connections that you were, you're unable to make them
Mm-hmm.
anymore because of what the trauma, and it's more complex than what he was discussing there. And I think that's the only kind of like, that was creating like a barrier, um of comprehension or understanding for me,
Mm-hmm.
for his concept. And maybe he wasn't even going there with that, you
Yeah,
know.
I think we have to be mindful that there's a spectrum of trauma. And to your point, what he's referencing are those who have the ability. Because when you start talking about the level of trauma that you're referencing, I think we get into the fact that you do develop certain disabilities if your trauma is exacerbated, and it requires you or someone within your family um, to 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 dive in or to intervene, as we've seen on some of those TV shows that they've had, where families have to come in and do an intervention. I
Mhm.
think he's at that level. I think where he's at are in what the audience that he is speaking to are those who are now at a point within their lives that they do have the capabilities to have a level of awareness
Mhm.
and have a level where it's still within their control, because it wasn't a situation that was so exacerbated that a level of intervention had to, because that's when you have to get into having the medical professions, etc., come in. But who he's speaking to, his audience, are those who are in that in between, who are not quite over the ledge to where they need an intervention, but who are have enough mental capacity, have enough mental capacity to have a level or develop a level of awareness. So I think that's where he's at.
Mhm.
And so we'll stay there,
Mhm.
because to go further beyond would take us into a space where is medical related. And although you are in that space and you probably can talk about it most effectively, I
I
cannot.
can't, because
Oh,
I'm not
oh,
I'm
okay.
not I'm not a I'm not professionally trained in mental
Correct.
health. I
Correct.
just get it. It's integrated within primary care.
Okay.
So I get little intermittent,
Understand
experiences. Yeah,
experiences
experiences with that. But I always tap into my mental health professionals who deal with it on a
on a
constant,
daily basis.
consistent,
Exactly.
consistent, yeah,
So
consistent
context is
basis.
important, and I want our audience to know that if you feel, oh, he can't be speaking about me, you're right. He probably is not speaking about
Right. And so that's why I said, yeah.
you. And
So
then
not to dispute what he was saying, because that may be have relevant for, again, the audience that he was speaking to. And this may not be for the particular audience that it triggered for me when he said it.
correct. But
Yeah.
there's nothing wrong with having a level within where we are at in our profession, having a level of awareness that there is another level. And so when we are having these discussions, we have to understand that there is a spectrum of individuals or population in which we're speaking to. And the population that we're speaking to is probably somewhere in between. where they don't need that medical intervention or uh, that medical intervention, but they are in a space where they do have the capabilities to really change their lives because it's still within their control. And so, yeah, but yeah, to go back to what he had shared in that respective area, um, you know, he did talk about his mindset, about how, making sure that we have a strong mindset that will allow us for growth, right? That will not prevent us from growing. And number one is setting that intention. Number two is having that level of awareness. And then going through the process of setting up the respective systems that will allow us to overcome, that will allow us to break barriers with regards to the bad habits that we have instituted and placed within ourselves that is preventing us from reaching our goal, which was the last one. Making sure where are we going? Do we even know where we're going?
He mentioned 8 years of age as being the age of which you have developed your understanding, your thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and what he was talking about was Levinson's theory. So
Okay.
he's talking about I think it's lifespan
Okay.
psychology. But anyway, I would stand to say that it's actually 6 years of age.
Well, in the educational space, they say five
Mm,
age.
yeah, I
Five
just
in the US kindergarten between the age of 0 and 5 because they say that that is the time frame in which we literally will develop our thought process, where we're being groomed, so to speak, and where majority of our character and our characteristics are going to
mhm.
over into young adult, etc. But that 0 to 5, and that's why, which is really bothersome for me, why I wonder why that population is not paid the most. If we know that between the ages of 0 to 5 is where we truly get kind of where we build our standards, where we define who we are, etc. Why is that population not the most paid population in the US? Why do they lack the resources and why do we rely on the lower socioeconomic class to develop that population is beyond me.
Like you just said, five, from 0 to 6, the experiences that you have, because most people have gone to daycare, right?
Mhm.
Um, Most people have
In the
been,
US.
their influence, right? Their influence has actually come from an external, it didn't come from the home.
Mm-mm. Not
And
here.
you're
US. Correct.
right, not in the US. Yeah, so that's the reason why I think like people who do come over here, like for example, Africans, they will send the child back at a certain age to get that to get that enrichment from and to experience like solid morals and values and teachings, appropriate teachings for that time. And then they send them back over here so they're not with all of these external influence, so that they have a core, so that they have a foundation.
Correct.
Um,
You are so spot on, Tiffany, because that is exactly once they have children here, you will find that a lot of foreigners will send
mhm,
their child back to the country in which they
mhm,
live because they have that level of awareness that
mhm.
here in the US, we're
Something
not
ain't
being
right.
raised exactly. We are not being raised by our home. We're not being
Our
raised by home,
ancestors.
our ancestors. And so we are having a foundation and we're being taught, but we have to be mindful. And I'm going to go back to that 0 to 5. What they are attempting to do is structure us based on mandates that are developed by each state. And each state sets their own mandates with regards to how children are raised and taught and the foundations that are set from 0 to 5. And so
Mhm,
we hope that there is a level of awareness. And it makes me nervous when Donald Trump comes in and he's trying to decentralize and remove the Department of Education,
Mhm.
or decentralize education, because now what may potentially happen is that there's no federal regulation, that
There's no regulation and you're retarding groups of people. Like you want a retarded group of people. That's what you're basically saying.
it's
And
very.
so you're retarding progress. But those people who are aware, right, and they
Mhm,
send their kids back to their countries to get that foundation, they
mhm,
will have enough armory
mhm.
to artillery to fight this nonsense that we're dealing with.
Well, not
And
even
not to get
like that,
political
within themselves,
within
not
themselves.
be
Yeah.
swayed by some of the mandates that are going to be placed on children when they do come back. They will have their
Mm-hmm.
own morals, their values, their standards set
Mm-hmm.
within themselves. They don't have to fight, but they will be able to hold their ground. Okay?
Mm-hmm. And
Not
they and
really
then
about being fighting, but it's about, and that's why we talk
and
about
not physically
it.
fighting, but just the mental fight, to
Correct.
have the mental fortitude to
It's,
withstand,
it's
yeah,
not a
to
fight though, but
withstand
they're
with
gonna be
a
strong. They're gonna be
yeah, so there can be
strong.
stronger, but it also plays into progression, right?
Mm-hmm.
On this end of the country. So think of what we went through as we were coming up, right? What we were exposed to in the Bible Belt.
Mm-hmm.
Lots of Bible thumpers, lots of contradictions. And then because our parents didn't believe in that, although, our mama was a Bible
We had
thumper.
a nice balance,
Um,
I want to say.
yeah, we
My
had a balance. We
house,
had an
my dad
atheist
was
and
on
then,
one side and my mom was on another side.
right, we had an atheist and a super religious.
Not that he's an atheist. Oh gosh, I got that's another podcast for another day. Atheism does
For
not
atheists.
have to tell y'all why, but we'll talk about that.
But he don't believe in any of that stuff. So and he's still alive and well, doing just fine. But in opposition to what we were taught. We were
Right,
taught that people who didn't believe was going where the hell
right.
very quickly too, at young ages and shit like that, just to
Mhm,
confuse the issue
mhm.
even further. But anyway, but yeah, I think that um to our point about gosh, I do this all the time, just this
The
tangential, but I think it's
children
gonna
and the fact that they come back here
yeah,
from.
and they're coming back with the mental fortitude to handle
Mhm,
Mexicans do it, Africans do it, pretty much everybody does it,
mhm,
because they're aware, but there has to be this level of awareness. So I was talking about progression. So here, right, in
mhm.
California, super progressive. It's progressive, but you come back that way and you still see like some just unbelievably, for this to be 2025, you still see some very non-progressive activities going on. And it doesn't make a lot of sense.
Mm-mm.
Like, so then it also kind of contradicts that we're connected in some sort of way.
Well, I already shared with you, and folks, Tiffany and I, we always have a conversation prior to. I always feel like we should put some of those conversations into this podcast here. But I already talked about the fact that and he said it. He talked about it. Brent talked about the fact that we live in a society in which
Mm-hmm.
we are very disconnected. And on purpose, intentional. The division in the US is all intentional. The
Mm-hmm.
disruption of the households, the separation of father from child, etc. It's all intentional, because when we're divided, we lack strength. We lack that collective consciousness in order
Mm-hmm.
to effectively communicate to one another. And we've divided ourselves based on religion, based on class, etc., so that that collective consciousness, it's very difficult to converse with one another. And we'll talk about it a little later. Hopefully, we'll be able to get to about. I was talking to him about the fact that we leverage telepathy. Telepathy is still alive and well. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
we it's reduced in terms of the effectiveness of it. But telepathy is still alive and well, which is why mommy can think about you and you end up calling her. That's an element of telepathic thinking. It's still alive and well, but when we divide ourselves, we hinder the capabilities to talk and to effectively commune with one another. And so I think that's why, you have these populations, as you was alluding to earlier, who live in California, a progressive state, but you still have blockage. You don't have that communal thought process, that collective thought process going through, because we have these divisions within ourselves that are man-made, that we created, that are keeping us from really reaching that ultimate, I call it, high level of self that we once had. I think we once had it, but we've played this game of divisions for so long that we are starting to lose the skill set. But let's jump into, because I really want to get to the end where we do get to talk a little bit about mind power, about telepathy, etc. So let's get into this. I'm going to play his next. We had another question as we talked about his challenges, and were they the challenges, and how he leveraged his principles to change, or did he leverage principles to, and did they change and shift when he faced challenges?
If you broke it down into a few things, the awareness is important. That's a very important first step. But that awareness, because that's why we're doing it for step one, that awareness starts to expand. It expands your consciousness. And if you have, a thimble sized consciousness, and you start to expand it to a golf ball and a tennis ball, you're going to understand more. You're going to read a book that you read before, and now you're going to get it. Some spiritual book, maybe, you're going to get it because your consciousness is expanding. Okay. So what that does is it starts to create the belief, because that is paramount too. If you don't believe in yourself, nobody else is going to. And if you don't believe that you deserve the life you want, you're never going to get it. We've grown up, a lot of people with parents, money is only for people that are evil. You ought to be greedy to have money, this, that, or the other. Those are patterns that you believe. I mean, our belief patterns created in those first 8 years. You're not good enough. You're not this, you're not that. It's like a record, and it's working its way into a groove in your body. And now you're in those patterns, and you're so used to it. You've got to start believing that you deserve what you want, because you're never going to get it. Your mind's going to tell you all the reasons you couldn't and you shouldn't. And you've got this thing inside you, this voice inside your mind. People think that that's them. I mean, the voice that comes up all of a sudden and says, you shouldn't do that. You're not going to be able to do that. That's not you. That's the conditioned past. Our mind was created really to help us survive. In the old days, you walked out of the cave and there's a tiger there. Well, what am I going to do? Do I run? Do I fight? Your brain goes into survival mode immediately. Now you walk out of the door, you go to Starbucks, you're worried about your shoe. You're not using it for what it was meant for. So that mind has now been so twisted. And think about it. This is the only thing in the universe that knows everything you've ever done, and knows all the things you're embarrassed of that you never got caught doing, and it will use them against you, right? Your mind will go right. It's like two people fighting. It's like if one person goes right for the jugular, that's your mind. They'll go for the thing that'll just cut you, because your mind doesn't want to be trained. It's used to having free reign up there. But it's like anything else. You can work that mind to be working for you, instead of being like a monkey up there in a cage just going crazy.
Right.
So belief, it just creates that. Yeah, it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. If you don't think you're going to do it, you will never be able to do it. And that's what people do. I'm not a swimmer. My mom likes to go to the casino. Every time she goes, I don't know why I'm going. I never win. Yeah, why are you going? Because that is the worst affirmation. I hear it all the time. I hate my life. Life sucks. It's raining outside. They were supposed to go to a picnic, and now, the universe hates me. God hates me. It's ridiculous. Like, it's raining. So those are easy things to release. You're driving down the road. The guy in front of you is driving too slow. You're back there yelling, screaming. He's driving, has no idea what's going on. That's an easy thing to let go. Because those little things, every time you let that go, you get that little bit of willpower, and then you focus it. And that's how it works. Don't start with the big stuff. Start with the tiny, you wouldn't even think it would matter kind of stuff.
Right.
That's what you do first, and everything else starts to fall in place.
Yeah, and build on it. And
right.
Of noticing a particular habit, we had an opportunity to do a session on habits, and atomic habits was one of them. And that was one of the key things. We had to, of course, develop a level of awareness, and then determine out of what we've learned about, the habits, the behaviors that we've leaned on for such a long time, and kind of work and chop at each one. And what did he say? I believe he said 1%, just that 1% of improvement, and it compounds. And over time, you'll hopefully have an opportunity to it'll snowball effect, hopefully in a positive way. But you'll have that positive experience where overcoming your behaviors would be easy, will be easier. So okay, behavior. So we had to talk about like action steps. um I am I I just applied for a job. I applied for 75 jobs. No one ever calls me, right? The world hates me, to use your words there. The world hates me. I'm no good, etc. So now I've gone through the process. I now have a level of awareness. I realize that I'm taking something so minute, and I macro. I think I just made a word up. I'm I macrolized it. I just expanded it to the world versus just kind of taking an inner look at myself. I've noticed that I do this, so this is a behavior that I have. What's my next step? What actions should I take in order to finally overcome, what, the world really does not hate you? Is it just a matter of just doing it? Just get over it, girl. No, the world does not hate you. Or is there some sort of process that folks can think about in order to overcome situations like that, where they take something so minute and they just blow it out of proportion?
Well, positivity is important, but positive thinking only gets you part way. Positive thinking is like, you're putting a Band-Aid on a gunshot. I mean, it'll help, but it's not going to solve the root of the issue. So I think as humans, that's what we never want to do. We don't want to find out what's causing it. In everything, think about it. In medicine, they don't give you a pill to solve the problem. It's a pill that you're going to have to keep taking for the rest of your life. It's never the root issue. Right. We're just going to put a Band-Aid on this, and you're going to go the rest of your life taking these, whatever. Right. So it's finding out what the root is. I mean, there's a reason that you think that the world, there's a reason. It's not because of the job search. This has to go back farther. Right. So if I always tell people, you have to do something, if it's not meditation, if it's prayer, if it's sitting alone for 5 minutes a day, but without that connection to your inner soul, your inner self, all the wisdom you could ever want is in there, because we're all connected. We're connected to the past, the future, everything, but none of us know how to access it. Meditation will do that. Prayer will do that. If you sit alone with yourself, people are deathly afraid of that, because it's scary, because again, your mind knows everything. It knows all the stuff, and it does not want to be trained. So it's going to start throwing that up at you. But we need that connection time, because then you'll find out what is the root of this, and it'll all of a sudden pop up. Something unexpectedly. I was meditating the other day, and it's like I'm thinking about, an event that happened 30 years ago. And sometimes the thing is, something will pop up completely random, and it won't be connected to what you're actually releasing. And nobody knows why that happens. So you don't always have to look at, the trick is not to get pulled into whatever it is. Whatever you start thinking about, don't get sucked into it. Okay. Because what will happen, the more you do this, you'll start to create a time bubble almost. And so something will happen. Then you'll send out a bunch of resumes and nobody will call again. And then there'll be a moment when you're about to blow up. Somebody walks in that always fights with you, and they start their BS, and they're going to bait you into a fight. All of a sudden, things start to slow down. Okay. And you seem like you're kind of out of time a little bit. you seem to have more time than normal, because what's happening is you're gaining back this clarity, you're gaining back this mind power. So now you can decide, do I want to get pulled into this fight? Do I want to go down this road and ruin my progress and have a big explosion about nobody calling me? And you decide, no, I mean, I don't. It's not worth my peace. And you let it go. So now what seems like to the other person, if it's two people you're about to fight with, it seems to them like normal time. But for you, it seems like you've got a really good amount of time. And you're kind of standing. So normally we get sucked into something and we're fighting and yelling and arguing, and it's a week later, a month later, we don't even realize we're in it. This now gives you the time to go, wait, this isn't worth my peace. And you just don't take the bait. Right. And it does it automatically. So again, just think about these. Instead of, I'm going to go sit down for 5 minutes, and today I'm going to think about why it is that I think people don't like me, or why it is I send nobody calls me, and why, whatever. You have to remember too, people are nowadays, 20 years ago, you could get somebody on the phone. You get now everybody with, I mean, they don't even respond to your email. You see, they opened it, they don't respond to anything. It's a different pace of the world that you have to release. It's not you, right? It's the world is doing some crazy vortex that, you're standing in the middle of, but you just have to let that go. So, and try to find the root. And you, like I said, you don't always have to go deep into it. You just start thinking about it, and you'll start to find your answer that way.
Hey, I wanted us to dive into a little bit about his standards, and how do they change when he faces a challenge. And then I liked as well, I went ahead and threw in there, reining in the monkey mind, and really grounding ourselves to reposition ourselves for success. What was your thoughts on that?
I'm glad that he clarified about the portion about just get over it, and turn it into more of a positive. And he was given the example about what wouldn't solve the problem. And he kind of used medicine as like with the pill, giving that analogy to help, understanding. But I just did want to know, where did he get it to the definition of the mind does not want to be trained?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I don't know necessarily that I understand that, because I feel different. I feel like the mind does crave discipline. It does want to be trained. But you have all these external forces and things coming at you. It's just so much coming at us. We just have so much stimuli. Just it's these all coming just all the time. So how can the brain even decipher?
I think because we have the ability to make a decision as to whether or not we were going to permit those external influences coming in our minds, disrupting our thought process, and which is why he talks a lot about the fact it's so important to really take time for self, do meditation to help us rein in the monkey mind.
Right. And that's what changed it for me. And I've told you that on different podcasts, how meditation changed life for me. And he said the same thing.
Correct.
Because it does allow you, like if you're silent, the thoughts will, they
there.
come in. Yeah, they come in like what's that fast train in Japan?
Oh,
I mean,
right.
I just be like, I'm tired of thinking. You could almost be fatigued at the level amount of information that comes in all day, every day.
Right.
But yeah, no, no, I thought what he had to say was profound actually there. A lot to unpack though. I think that there's more, I think we could expand more on that part alone.
Correct. Correct. Yes, he does, talk about the fact that having that level of awareness, and once we have that a level of awareness, it will begin to help us to expand our consciousness.
I like that.
Yeah, I like that as
that
well.
was the most profound when he said,
and how we speak to ourselves is so important. A lot of this, the onus is on us. The onus is on us if we are still in a place where we have control. and we have that capability to really just sit down and maybe not think, but allow those thoughts, as those thoughts are coming through, allowing them to come through and leave. I think that's very critical. I think a lot of people, and why meditation is so difficult for a lot of people, is because yes, those thoughts will come through, and they come through at an exponential rate, and it's very difficult to rein them in, so that we can begin to put in place, to even begin to set an intention, first of all. And then once we set that intention, begin to put into place a game plan that helps us to overcome and achieve in whatever area it is that we want to achieve. But it's funny that he brought that up, because in my next line of questioning, I actually he caught me. He caught me because I was telling him, I was like, it is so difficult to meditate, even for me, which is why last year over the summer, I did a whole meditation series to help rein in my monkey mind, because my mind is everywhere 24 hours a day. And have I improved? I have improved. But listen to how he caught me, kind of getting on my own self about the fact that I put out in the air that I can't meditate, you guys. I'm terrible
Right.
at
And
it.
that's more of what you're gonna manifest than
Then
than
exactly.
the desired
Exactly, exactly. But let's check out that short clip,
I
how he
mean,
caught me.
I tell everyone though, start with 5 minutes, okay? Because here's the thing: your mind is not used to being trained; it doesn't want to be. So, if you try to sit down and I do 45 minutes in the morning, 45 minutes in the evening. Okay,
Uh,
every day. I do 20 minutes of chanting in the morning, 20 minutes of chanting in the evening. And
okay.
if I have to fly somewhere, I'll be up at 1 in the morning, 2 in the morning to do it. I've just made that my intention. I have made that as one of my principles. I'm
Okay.
going to do this every single day, and
Right.
I do it. I don't want to walk every day. I go out and do it. I'm a vegetarian. I don't eat meat. I don't eat dairy. I don't eat cheese. None of that. Okay. Trust me, a cheese pizza sounds really good sometimes,
Mm-hmm.
but that's part of I've made that a principle. That's the thing when you decide to set an intention on it, right? So sit down 5 minutes, close your eyes, cross-legged on the floor, and all you got to do to start, count to 20. When you get to 20, go to one. When you get to 20, go to one. Because at the very first week, 2 weeks, your mind is going to constantly 1, 2, 3. What am I having for lunch? Oh, my back hurts. Oh, my leg hurts. Boom, you go back to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Well, I remember that fight I had with Mary back in 1997. What am I going to? 1, 2, 3. You constantly do that because what you're doing is you're training your mind. You're teaching it how to focus. When
Right.
I was in school, my teachers used to say, Brent, you need to learn how to focus. And finally, one day I said, did I miss that day? Because I don't remember ever learning how to focus. And the teacher thought about it and she said, you know what? I didn't either. Because we don't learn how to focus. They tell us to do it. And so you strengthen that muscle every time you pull back. It doesn't sound like you're doing it. You feel like you're doing anything. 1, 2, 3. But I'm thinking. Okay, 1, 2. But you are. You're pulling back your power, your strength every time. You're strengthening that muscle every time you pull back your focus. So you do that in meditation, and then maybe next week you add a minute, and now every morning you're going to do 6 minutes, and you do it very, very, very slow. You just get your mind used to it. Eventually, your mind is going to go, this guy's not going to let me out of this. He's obviously going to do this. I'm going to just slide to the back and let it happen. And that's what will happen. Your mind will stop fighting you. I get up every morning. I do all of my morning practices, my meditation. But my first idea is, and a lot of people don't like this, but it works for me. My mind is against me. There's the lower mind that's fighting me. I just feel like it's somebody who doesn't want me to win this game. And if I look at it that way, it's like a little kid. If my mind says, Brent, you look a little fat in that shirt today, I will go, I named the voice. Carl. And I go, there goes Carl again. Carl is so funny. And you look at the voice in your mind like a little kid, a little bratty kid who's going to just try to get you mad. And it takes all the power away because it's not the voice of God. It's not the future. It's this stupid voice that's just triggered to say horrible things to you. And so you name it. I know that's another trick that people can use. Name the
Which,
voice.
Yeah, which is why you said earlier, if we have that level of awareness and are aware and can always pull ourselves back when we begin to speak negatively, then we start to speak positively every time that occurs. When we get prepared for an activity such as meditation, we now are sitting, going through the process of practicing how to focus. And now that voice becomes less negative and maybe not as how do I want to say, loud, and we have the ability to quiet it. So that's actually a good point that you brought up, because I will say that I've tried to meditate. I can't do it. I don't tell anyone that I meditate. I'm like, I am not a meditator. I could do some breath work, but I cannot meditate.
But you can't see that. But and you're affirming that you're not a meditator by saying I can't meditate. I'm not a meditator. I'm
It is.
telling you.
No, no, you're right. It
The
is.
counting to 20 is the trick. The
Okay.
counting to 20 and pulling back. If you sit there and don't do anything, your mind's going to run you over. But the counting tricks your mind. It's like, oh, look, we have something to do. It's like a dog with keys. You're going, hey, look at this. And the mind's going 1, 2, 3, 4. You're kind of you're transcending it. You're going above your lower mind into that subconscious. Right. So it's like a trick, but any trick you can do is positive. That's going to help you.
Yeah, the one trick that I do is I set an intention. So if I force myself to focus on a thought, it can't be blank. But if I focus on a thought and that's all I'm focusing on, then my mind runs on that thought in that direction. And so that's how how do I say, I help myself to say, okay, well, this is my type of meditation. This is what's effective for me, because it's almost like I have to be active and achieving something versus just a blank mind, right? And that helps me as well. I think that's been kind of effective for me. But I do want to get to that state, so I'll try the count to 20 and see if I can just remove all thoughts and get to that point. Thank you for that piece of advice. I wanted to go back and touch on, because I was talking about if we do have a younger population and they can't find the answers when they are meditating. One of the things that came to my mind as you were speaking was that for that younger population, that sometimes it may help that they do leverage a network or reach out, because sometimes when you do meditate, you sit down, you might not per se have the answer, but within your meditative practice, a thought may come to say, hey, Lucy is in that space. Maybe you need to go set up a 10-minute conversation with Lucy to help you get over. And so that was a thought that came to my mind, because I think when we work out, like my sister and I, we were talking on our show, I was like, what is this? When we work out, all of a sudden, all these thoughts just start boom, 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 left and right. Like, oh, you need to do this. You need to go here. You need to do that. And I believe what did I read about? It's not, oh my goodness, what is the word? It's not endorphins. But there is a hormone, it's going to pop up here later. There's a hormone that helps you to, that's where those thoughts come from, because that hormone, when you're working out, when you're exercising, helps your body to start basically become more active. And so those thoughts start to come a little bit more frequently. I know I'm going to remember, it starts with a D. I cannot right now. But yeah, okay. So fantastic. Thank you for providing that level of insight. Tied in there a couple things with regards to just meditation. How do we do that most effectively, and got caught, right? Setting the wrong mindset to overcome the fact that I can't meditate. It is definitely work in progress. And I also wanted to make sure that we got in there some information about mind control and about how the fact that we have the internal piece with regards to the things that we can control, but there are external factors, and I don't want to be ignorant to the fact that there are external factors that play into our capabilities to really, leverage our minds most effectively. What was your take on what Brent had to share with us today?
Um, you know, I don't know. How do you think that other because I'm not trying to make it about race, but I know that people teach their kids different things based off of culture, based off of ethnicity. We have significant differences, right? Like in our culture, you know, what they deem as corporal punishment was used to control children, you know. So
Mhm.
like when he was saying about just because you're a parent and you may be older and you know more, that like basically that you don't we don't see our children as equals. Well, we're taught that in our culture. We're not seen as equals, but I'm not sure that not seeing your child as your equal is comparative to seeing your child as equal. If that makes sense, like I don't know. I don't know him. Some of his concepts are oversimplified for me.
Mhm.
Like because I do think that like so how does a 6-year-old know just because they don't like meat,
He,
but you know that meat is
told you that
protein?
there's a fine line. And I think
Yeah.
his point, he did state that there is a fine line. Okay, there's a fine line between raising your children and allowing them to also be individuals. And I don't think that he was trying to really focus on the fact that we are not an authoritative figure and that we shouldn't guide them, but more along the lines that they are going to become their own individual. And
Okay, that's fine. But
how
on
do
the scheme of things,
how do we as parents balance our authoritativeness and ensure that we are allowing them to be an individual? Because especially right in Asian cultures, even, and you see it a lot in Asian cultures, where there is it's my way or the highway. And a lot of children will grow up in that Asian society struggling with finding their own identity, especially when they come to a country like the US, where after a certain point, we do allow our children to explore and we do release the reins, if you will, almost too much to the point where they may not been ready for that because we had been the helicopter parent, because we had been that type of parent that reined them in too much to where they make a lot of mistakes when we release those reins, because that's what we're good at. We're good at reining them in, being real tight on them, and then releasing. Whereas I think in even African cultures, African, Asian cultures, they rein it in and they keep the reins on until you become successful. And we
or
do.
discipline.
Yeah, they instill that discipline until they see that you are disciplined, that you have conformed. But what I think and what I like about Brent was that he was saying we got to find a balance so that kids, we do guide them. We have to be a parent, is what he said. You got to be a parent. Okay.
Mhm.
But there is we got to find that balance on that fine line that allows us to be a parent, but also allows our children to explore, to take risks, allows our children to really try to develop their own identity that allows them to find success within themselves and not be misled. And that's where, we dove into some of the idealism of mind control because I'm going to just say it frankly, in
Mhm.
especially in cultures, in religion, especially in religion, there is an element of mind control that exists. While we do introduce the concept of God, the concept of morals and values and the Ten Commandments, especially in the Christian religion and, in our different religions, Judaism, they had how many rules? 300 and something, 300 and some, 360 rules that they had to abide by, that really stifles creativity. And not that I'm saying, oh, you need to go let people kill people, you need to let us lie, except no, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that we do need to um, allow for a level of failure so
Mhm.
that children can explore and fail and grow through that failure. But give them the tenets, give them that guidance, so that they know this is this is, and I'm going to go to the natural rule of law here. Don't go out and do something to others that where we don't possess a level of compassion, where whatever it is that we do, we would expect to be done to us. That golden rule principle. Don't go out there doing things that's going to be harmful to others. If it's not something that we would expect of ourselves, don't go out there doing that to others.
Mhm.
you know and so I just think he was trying to say we have to find a balance. We have to be more balanced as individuals, as people. We have to be more thoughtful that yes, we do have a strong education system here in the US, where we do uh, advise families to take their children, make sure that their children are being educated at a young age, but also do not lose sight of the fact that we do have a home, and we should also be developing them in the home, which is what you're seeing a lot now. Families are actually now bringing their children back home, and they're now
Mhm.
virtual schooling, and they're now
Mhm.
grooming their children more in the home, because they realized that there was a disconnect occurring, by sending their kids out and allowing others to provide that foundation.
But
Mhm.
I do think that a democracy allows for choices, right?
Mhm.
And there should still exist in the structure. If some people prefer that, that's fine. If some people want to homeschool it, that's fine. But for the government to be this involved with it, like, did you see the thing that he wrote, the executive order he wrote the other day about putting like discipline back in the schools? Do you know how many teachers would be killed if they put their hands on these students?
Yeah, that's not, it's not good.
If they allow some sort of corporal punishment in schools, or allowing prayer back in schools where everybody does not subscribe to, and that right there, I think, is limiting. Huh?
A lot of people are now homeschooling their children or putting their children in virtual schools because they want to have a level of control. But you'd have to also understand the virtual school environment. They're not bringing their kids in so that they're creating the homeschooling plan. Some of people are, but a lot of people are now leaning in this. What is Trump doing is plugging one of the businesses that he supports, which is virtual schooling. Trump actually has an involvement and an investment in virtual schooling. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
and so that an element of him stating that is to promote that, you can bring your children back in the home, you can give them the morals, the foundations within the home, but there is virtual schooling, which is structured and which is mandated by the state. They still are involved, but they are
Mm-hmm.
involved from a state perspective in trying to move the federal government, the federal Department of Education out of play because they're allowing the states to actually manage the virtual schooling environment. But there are still mandates that are there, and hopefully that won't get lost in the grand scheme of things. But yeah, but I wanted to bring back into play the whole idea of the fact that what Brent was sharing earlier was the fact that we do need to develop our children in the home, because it's not being taught within our school system how
Mm-hmm.
how we want to, instill a set of control within our children's mind, to be so strong, so that they are not swayed by what they are seeing out in the world. Just wanted to make sure that I don't know how much of that clip that I'll be able to keep within our grand scheme of our conversation. But
Mm-hmm.
I wanted just to make sure that we brought that back, that we do need to take back control. We do need to take back power, so that we can ensure that our children's minds, that their standards are set, that they cannot be wavered. That, another element of that I wanted to bring into play is that, when our children are introduced out into the world, because they are in our standardized school system, that they,
Mm-hmm.
because of the social aspect within the US, that they have drinking, they have smoking, to socialize and build. We just watched a video about a gospel singer that is on, live TV,
Right.
drunk, intoxicated, because
Mm-hmm.
we are taught that drinking is permitted, and in order to socialize and have build a network, etc., that you have to develop some of these societal standards to building that. And if we were
Mm-hmm.
able to bring our kids back into the home, to, yes, get get educated, but bring them back in the home so that they understand that, yeah, you can build you can build your base. You can be successful, but you don't always have to be involved in what the society has deemed as the norm. We've deemed drinking, smoking, etc. And as I mentioned in other podcasts, when we teach our children that this is acceptable behavior, and they lack a level of control and understanding, those substances can take over their mind, and all we're doing
Mm-hmm.
is creating an environment of where they feel like they have to do those things in order to fit in. But
Mm-hmm.
once again, we are going to rein back in the mind. Okay, we are going to bring
Mm-hmm.
children back into the home so they can develop the right standards, the right mindset, where when they are out, they don't have to be involved in drinking. They don't have to be involved in smoking. They don't have to be involved in drugs in order to fit in. Okay.
Right.
And so I just really wanted to make sure that we have that level of understanding that is so important, that we do teach children at home first, and set those standards first within the home, so that they have an understanding you can still be successful without all of that. It's not a prerequisite in order to find success.
Mm-hmm.
But let's get into the last question that I wanted to share with you all, and this is what I was diving into, is because mind control exists, because the fact that we have, on top of mind control, people who have the capabilities to read the mind, people who have the capability, and when they can read your mind, they have the capabilities to control your mind. We're going to talk about a little bit the laws that were used, that are being used, and the unethical use of it. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and let's listen to Brent as he dives into that and helps us to better understand. I wanted to now jump in really quick. You have a free book out there on your website. The website, can you give us the website address, please?
Yeah, it's just Brent Webb, BrentWebb.com.
Fantastic. And on Brent Webb's website, he has a book called The Secrets of Mind Control. I wanted to dive into this because I'm really fascinated with regards to the idea of mind control, and the gifts of foresight. And I think it's really, really interesting that these particular characteristics of our human nature exist, but we are not really taught how to leverage them. And I'll give you an example. I watched a YouTube video in UK. In the UK, it was a group of children. They had them sitting in actually a woman's home, which I found interesting. So I think she was she trained in that particular area, but they put blindfolds on all of the children and they were training the children to leverage their mind to see, to have foresight, to do. I don't think that one was geared towards mind control, but control within their mind to be able to do those things most effectively. How, especially here in the US, how do we, because I don't think it's designed, it's not built into our school system, or I don't see that. I don't see schools that are designed for training that. How do we do that if we wanted to develop within our own home?
Well, that's the thing. It's got to be developed in the home because at the education system, what other business would you say hasn't made any big changes in the last 200-300 years? Education, they're doing exactly the same way they did it back then. And they're teaching your kids and your grandkids the same way they taught you.
Right.
And what if that's wrong? Because it is. I mean, anytime you take a business where, it becomes, it's all about the money. It's all about it takes away from the child. So you have to do it at home. You have to mind control, like that book, what I'm talking about a lot. I mean, I talk about how mind control is used by, emperors and used by the media. But basically, mind control is controlling your own mind. Because once you learn to control your mind, nobody else can control it for you, which is what's happening. Okay, so you've gained a level of clarity and wisdom that just changes everything. Because now you look at things and instead of getting sucked into them, instead of getting baited into this Republican versus Democrat, black versus white, man versus woman thing, you don't, because you realize this is all a form of mind control. So at home, you have to teach, I think, your kids early on, and it requires the parent too to do something huge, which is not to discount whatever it is the kid says they want to do, whatever they're showing passion about. That's when that passion usually comes out in the 4, 5, 6. And well, you can't do that. Boys can't be this. Girls can't do that. You'll never have the money for this. That's only for some people. You can't do that. You have to make an intention in yourself to support your child. If they just if they're showing an affinity for painting, if they're showing an affinity for ballet dancing, whatever it is, there's a reason that they're doing that. They're not doing it to make you mad. They're doing it because there's something inside that's telling them that. And we beat it out of the kid. I mean, not physically, but you can't do that. You go to school, we put you in rows of desks. Everyone's got to be the same.
Right.
So it requires at home you sticking to your side of the deal, which is you're going to support the kid. You're going to give them the time. You're going to give them whatever they need from you to find out what it is they want to do or find out what their passion is, and just teach them that the most important voice that matters is yours. The most important feeling, the most important. You're talking about what were we talking about? The book.
Mind control.
Yeah, which is no. We were talking about the book earlier.
Oh, Atomic Habits.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's got to become that. It's repetition is a magic power. Just like you said earlier, when somebody was talking about, we didn't get where we are in a day. We got here. I got, here because I ate way too much for 30 years. So to get out of this, it requires repetition of the good things to break those grooves in the record, right? So you have to start teaching your kids early on the voice that matters, your belief, what you believe in. If you don't think you should eat meat and you're 6 years old, then you won't have to eat meat. You have to, and not some crazy thing. I want to play video games 24 hours a day. Can't be that, obviously. You got to be a parent, but you have to find that fine line where, you're not just, parents think that because they're older and they know more, that they're automatically, it's an unequal dynamic. The kid's not equal to you. And we're all connected to each other. Our job is to nurture and raise and to give them a better life, but teach them the right way. So, because in school they're going to get, it's overstimulation of everything. I mean, in this society, phones and computers, and it's in your face 24/7. So it's harder to get that alone time. So I think you start that meditation practice with your kids.
Mm.
Teach your kids to do it. Give them a 5 minute, don't call it a timeout like it's a bad thing, imagination time. It's whatever time, name something, but start teaching them. And then as an adult like you and I, they won't have to learn it and try to get rid of all the crap they've got in there, because you're doing it while they're growing, while they're learning, while their brain is developing. You're putting that in there, and now their life's going to be different because they don't have to wait till they're 40 years old and then go back and try to get rid of all this junk.
Right. No, that's a good point. And you are so spot on with regards to the education system and how it is still been the same system. They designed it for manufacturing purposes. We no longer manufacture. We're more service oriented, and we have not changed our system in order to accommodate the way that our industries are today. So that is definitely a good point. I do like the fact that you said, mind control is more about developing your mind so it cannot be controlled. I think, though, I want to make sure it's clear that there are people who have the ability to leverage mind control unethically.
Of course.
It happens all the time. But the way that we can overcome that is to ensure that we do within ourselves become so strong, so set with regards to the standards, our principles, etc., that when it does occur, we can look at it and say, hey, no, that's not how I manage things. Yes. That is not how I want to handle that. The other piece that I wanted to share is that we have to also be very mindful of, you had mentioned earlier, addictions and things of that nature, because when we dive into drinking too much, smoking, or doing these different type of drugs, that open the pathway for your mind to be controlled, you want to minimize your use of these items so that you have better control of the things that you set for yourself in terms of your standards, in terms of your principles that you want to leverage. So you won't be so easy to manipulate. Because I thought about that. I was like, I can't wait to read your book. I will definitely read your book, because that really, I think we have to be mindful that it does exist. Yep. And that I hope that when I read your book, it goes through talking a little bit about just how we can overcome that, which it sounds like it does based on what you've shared. So thank you for that. Is Question for you, because I think one of the things that I wanted to know is there some sort of ethical framework for individuals leveraging mind control? Are there some unspoken rules that exist, or is it just, we don't know? We know it exists, we know it's there, but we can't be focused on it because we just don't know.
Well, the quantum physics has years ago, when they wrote these self-help books, and they touched on things like law of attraction and power of the mind, and it really was unproven. They were way ahead of the time back in the 40s and the 50s, because now we are with science able to prove a lot of this. Like the reason that in meditation you connect to that inner you is everything that has ever been, ever will be, is coming from what's called the quantum field. And again, nuclear, it's completely been proven with science. And so everything springs from that. And that's where creativity, you were saying how when you work out, you get all this rush of ideas. It happens in meditation. That is where creativity is. I get the most amazing ideas for videos or things I want to talk about, or new things for the show, or these things that just, all of us, it's like, where did this come from? It's because when you're meditating, you are going inward. Now, instead of the outer world affecting you and all of this, 24/7, you are taking and you're going in. It's like a drill, and you're drilling down. When you hit that unified field where everything comes from, it's creativity and abundance, and you feel amazing. When you get a new car, that feeling you get, that shuddery feeling, you kiss the girl for the first time, the boy, whatever. That is in you all the time, but it's kind of covered over. That's the feeling you should be having.
Just came to me, dopamine.
Dopamine, yes.
Dopamine. I was like, no, it's dopamine. Okay, yes.
Yeah, and a lot of people use, I think that's one of the reasons opioids are so big, is because the people who aren't in pain are getting that feeling, the dopamine, they're getting that euphoric feeling, right? So we're always trying to mask something that's, that's inside us. So wait, I'm sorry, what were we just talking about before then?
Well, I was asking you about if there was some sort of ethical framework, is what I was referencing.
Like, as far as you're saying, as far as like rules that you have to.
Yeah, rules, some unspoken rules that exist when we are focusing on, because I was saying mind control exists. And I wanted to better understand, are there spoken rules that people follow in order to not leverage it in a negative capacity? Or is it just that there are no rules, we just know it exists, but we have to make sure that we are structured, we have our standards, we have our principles set, so that when it does occur, it does not negatively impact us.
Now, I think one of the things really, it's an unspoken rule that you're not going to hurt anyone. You're not going to use it, because the thing is, and I promise you, if you believe anything I said in this interview today, the one thing you can take to heart is, if you use this against somebody else and you use this in a bad way, it will boomerang back to you. I mean, throughout history, it always has. I mean, Hitler died in a bunker blowing his brains out. The boomerang always comes back. So you just know, this is about bettering yourself. When you better yourself, your children get inspired. You change the whole generational line of your family. The people around you get inspired. You start changing the world. Everyone does this. It starts to change everything. But if you start using it for, just getting money, if you're using it for control over someone else, someone doesn't want to be with you, but you're going to try to use mind power and your will to make this person stay with you, it's going to boomerang back. And it's a waste of your effort. You could be doing unbelievable things, and you're worried about, it's like having this computer. Like I said, it's the most amazing computer ever invented, can do the most magical things, and you're using it for a tip calculator. It's like you're using it for the stupidest thing for this level of machine. So yeah, I mean, just do good. Don't hurt anyone else. Don't hurt yourself. And whatever you want to do, that dream is in you for a reason. It's there for a reason. You'd never even have that dream if it wasn't possible for you. So, believe in yourself, and don't let anyone else move you. And that's how you're going to succeed. You will absolutely get success, because no one will be able to stop you. And just like you said, a lot of people want to stop you. Your friends, they want you to stay where you are, because then it's going to show them that they can do it too, and they don't want to do it. So they're going to try to talk you out of it. Your family's going to tell you why you can't do what you want to do. The trick is letting all that stuff just roll off. You have that. I get up in the morning, like I told you, I put on my cloak of invulnerability, and it's on all day long, just psychically, just in my mind. Your mind can't tell whether you're doing something for real or whether you're doing it in your mind. That's the magic thing. If you imagine running a race, to your mind, it's exactly the same as if you actually did it. That's why sports psychologists, they get hired by the teams, and they teach the teams how to do these things in their head. Okay, make the basket 50 times in your mind. It's a mental game first. So if the general public would learn that, what the millionaires, the billionaires, the celebrities, the athletes, what they know, we could change everything, but when the normal people, and I hate saying that because we're all, but you know what I mean, like the status quo people, they take control of their own life. It just change, everything will change.
Absolutely. So you must have been using a little bit of your foresight, because you actually just answered my final question. I knew I was going to go over with you, because I was like, he is just so fascinating. You're like, I miss this type of conversation, FYI. I love being able to speak to people about these topics, because I'm like, why are people not talking about these type of topics? It's so fascinating. And why don't we teach this stuff?
I know one talks about it, because the ones who talk about it are always trying to sell you something. That's the problem. It's like, oh, I have a course. where I'm gonna right. But why not give the people this information, at least some of it ahead of time, and then they can start changing, and then they can afford your course,
Yeah,
right? It's like
exactly,
ridiculous.
because it's like pay $9.97 to better understand,
Yeah, right.
how the power of the mind, etc. But I mean, I get it. We are a capitalistic society. That's the reason, and I think we're overtly capitalistic to the point where it's all about making money, making money, making money, and no one's. While we do have a socialist component to us, it's that socialist component is more so, from my perspective, to help. How do I want to say? I don't want to say the have not, but people who are in a lower socioeconomic status. Um, but I'm so fascinated with these type of discussions, and it bothers me that I don't see it in our school systems. That's why I keep my kids here. Like I homeschool my children. I teach them about, mind control. I tell my son, especially, all the time, I said, I'm going to let you know right now, son, you're going to have to develop a stronger mind. And this is the reason why. And so I talked to him about, how he has to develop standards, principles, etc. He's so young though. He's not
How
trying.
old are your kids?
My son is 10. I have a daughter who's 11. I have an 18-year-old and a 23-year-old.
Wow.
Yeah,
You have
yeah.
a 23-year-old?
I do.
Oh, you look amazing.
Oh,
I mean, not the, but I mean, wow,
bless
that's
you.
amazing.
To you.
I'll tell you what I'm going to do. This is something that has not even come out yet, but we are putting the finishing touches on something called Mind Power for Kids. And it's going to be a program that exactly what we talked about earlier, that's
Okay.
teaching kids how. When this thing is done, I'm going to send you I'm going to send you a couple of free programs for you to try, and you can go through it with your kids and tell me how I'll let you be a beta test, but I'll do it
Yes.
for free.
Oh
I
my
would
gosh.
love that. So
Yes.
I'm writing
I would
myself a note,
love
so I'll get
it.
you everything.
Yes. Because my kids, their father is from Africa, and he's from Senegal. I say Africa like it's a country, but he's from Senegal. And in that Africa, and even in Eastern Asia, what I really love is that they understand this, right? They have such an understanding around this. And I'm like, I know, although I don't think their school system outrightly teaches, but I can see it when I used to go to their school. Their children are so much different. They're how do I want to say, so much more confident in class, and they know who they are. They have, like, these set standards, these principles, this
And
way.
appreciative. They're appreciative
Very
too.
appreciative, very humble. But they also have these gifts, and they love to share their gifts, which I was like, why don't we do that here? Why is everybody hiding? These gifts that we have, and that we have the capability. You have to know, because back in the day, before we had language, how the hell did we communicate, right? We communicated telepathically. How the heck did we do certain things? We leveraged telekinesis. We leveraged these different gifts. Why the hell are we not teaching and helping people to develop these skill sets? And why is it only for a select few? Why isn't it for everyone? So people will now be able to survive if someone leveraged it against them. So like I'm so happy you do this work. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for, coming out and just doing this type of work. And I hope your business grows and flourish and more of it comes, because it is so needed here. And the kids are actually asking for it here. I can see it. They talk to me, but they don't want to say what they know. And I'm just like, they are asking for it. So kudos to you. I will definitely be sharing more about who you are, what you do, because we need more of you here.
I was just gonna say that so he's profound. He's an inspiration. He definitely has a lot of knowledge about he definitely has a lot of knowledge about how to change the mindset and to experience the growth that we desire so much. I do think that I would like to read his book though, because I feel like he would provide that expansion. And I looked for it, but I couldn't find it.
on there anymore. Well, 2 years ago it was free. I don't know if he.
I know. I was like, so then what I did is I did like just a Google search, and then of course it pulled up other authors, and mainly like uh Eastern authors that wrote on the similar subject.
Mhm,
But I wanted to see what he had to say, because I feel like some people are able to deliver a message more clear
mhm,
or in more layman terms, because the concept, I'm telling you, is more complex. And you know that too, that is more complex than just what we were tapping into today.
mhm.
But yeah, um, we I did want to say, because we didn't get to talk about wait, are you gonna tell about the telekinesis and telepathy, or that was what you were gonna
Yeah, well, I
share?
highlighted a lot about it within the conversation of with Brent. The fact that here in the U.S. specifically, and you see it, if I can be candid, within our Christianity,
Mm-hmm.
Islam, and religion. I just want us to feel comfortable having this understanding of what Brent shared, that there is a collective spirit. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And this collective spirit and this collective consciousness is a part of telepathy. It's a part of mind control that exists within the world. It exists within the world.
Mm-hmm.
And when we talk about, and we actually, when I was telling people about the fact that mind reading exists in a podcast, I believe it was in our, gosh, what season was that? Our second season, where about the whispers of God, that we are constantly communicating with each other, but we've lost the understanding of what that communication is, and we rely on going through the process of personifying that communication, by classifying as when people use their supernatural powers, which is actually our natural gifts, you guys. These are our natural gifts that we have that we've just forgot about. We forgot that they exist. And the way that we've helped ourselves to understand its existence was through personification. When people use their natural gifts inappropriately, they call it witchcraft, voodooism. You've been hexed,
Mm-hmm.
right?
I believe in that.
They use their mind. It's called mind control. What they're doing
Mm-hmm.
is mind control. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
When you see screws and things falling apart out of nowhere, people are leveraging their gifts inappropriately, which is called telekinesis, the ability to move and shift and unscrew things. And because we're a global society, what's beautiful, because I watch a lot of different YouTube. I don't watch TV, but I do watch a lot of different YouTube videos of people showing the gifts that they have. And I think to myself, gosh, we're really not taking into consideration the fact that we all have these supernatural powers, these supernatural gifts, and they are being used on a daily basis. They're
Mm-hmm.
being used appropriately, and they're being used inappropriately. And I think that what society has done, especially in the US, is we've tried to build some sort of rule or some sort of morals and values around them by wrapping it around religion.
Mm-hmm.
In actuality, we should be wrapping it around natural laws. We know from birth, once we come out, it's built within us to do right by others. It's
Mm-hmm.
naturally built within us. We have a natural state of understanding, but of course we are raised, and it's going to take a lot of time to change. But because of how our upbringing is, we're raised to hate, we're raised to divide, right? But we already know naturally within how to do right. We are.
I
We've
do think I do think some cultural some cultures experience a more authentic right from wrong. Like they get to experience gosh, how do you say that? And the reason why it happens like that, like you mentioned, the children who were very different when you went in the classrooms over there in
Mm-hmm.
Africa, in Senegal, and how they have the confidence.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's because it's embedded in them. They're with their own people. They
Mm-hmm.
don't have all of these, I just guess
Different
I could just call
cultures.
them distractions. They don't have all this distracted thought where they have to be maneuvering and remembering, oh, I can't do this, do that around this and that person because they may get offended because of, some cultural value that I have. Um, and then they're influenced or not influenced by it. But
Mm-hmm.
I think it's just a lot. It's a lot over here. I feel like we are at a disadvantage in the States as African Americans,
Mm-hmm.
even
Mm-hmm.
like, and even our children.
Mm-hmm.
Do they really experience that growth? They'll never experience the growth the way that, like how Nigerians are just naturally highly intelligent like that.
Mm-hmm.
Or it seems like it's natural, but I think it's because they got to remain in their environment.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas we were removed from an environment and then we were prescribed values and
The
morals
American prescription.
that
They don't
belong to
belong to
someone else entirely. Like we could never, we don't, we it doesn't identify with us and we don't identify with it.
and which is why you see a lot of rebellion amongst our children, right? They're
Right.
trying to, and that's what Brent was sharing. The fact we have to have a balance because what we're doing is we're trying to throw a prescription on different identities, and it's not necessary. It's not working. It's actually
Mm-mm.
us. And the way that we've done it in the US is try to layer religion on top of it, right? So
Mm-hmm.
follow Christianity, we all should be, playing by
And
the
you'll be okay.
right, then you will be okay. But the problem with that is the US is not one race. We are not like in Nigeria or like in Senegal or like in um, China. We don't have one race. We have a collection of races, and so we have to find a balance with regards to how do we allow individuals to develop their children, to develop the morals and the values that are sound. Um, how do we do that? I can't say that I have the answer. I
Mm-mm. And I'll
think
tell you,
research needs to be done, but we need to start exploring and having a stronger conversation versus trying to make everybody Christian. I don't think that's the way to go. I think there's beauty in our
diversity.
diversity, and we
Yeah, our
can't
diverse experiences.
correct.
Yeah. So in medicine and also in our educational system and what's going on here, even in the US, is a one size fits all approach.
It's
And it's
don't
and
fail. I'm gonna let
it's
you.
failing. And that's the reason why, for example, I'll just use medicine.
Mhm.
That's the reason why you see these health disparities. I have so many Black patients in the Bay Area with hypertension, diabetes. But when I go like in the suburbs into Berkeley, you
Mhm.
don't see that disparity as sad as it is,
Mhm.
right? Where I am. So I I think that the one size fits all approach is what is killing. It's killing our educational system, our healthcare system, and our democracy.
Mhm. Yeah, oh, completely.
This is completely shutting it down, and for us not to realize it and come together and collaborate and just want to really, it's just about collaboration and being sensible, and being a little bit more sensible and really being progressive. But
Yeah, well, that's why you do see at Emory University, the Dalai Lama has started to come in to help kind of help us to start thinking about how we can use that collective consciousness to develop a game plan that really speaks to all versus using this one size fit all. approach to developing our children, and he's actually starting it um, at the elementary at from birth, going
Hmm.
into elementary, and it's called C learning. I actually took one of the classes so that I can have an understanding as to, the approach. And you're also starting to see it interwoven. My children attend virtual schooling, and they're actually interwove. How do I want to say?
Weaving or integrating.
Thank you. Integrating it into the educational system. And so there's more to come on that. It's going to take a long, long time. But it also is going to take our government to see this as well,
Hmm.
because you don't want to unravel what has been in the making for some time to really start to have an appreciation for the diverse perspectives, the diversity that exists within the US. We don't want to backtrack. We don't want to walk backwards, but really start to have these conversations about how we can collaborate and bring this into fruition, bring this ideology into fruition of respect, of having compassion, of a tolerance, having a level of tolerance of the diversity that exists within the U.S. especially, and not taking this one size fits all approach to um, to leading a population of people that is as diverse as we are. All right, folks. Was there anything else you wanted to share, Tiff?
No, I did want to say that having principles is necessary. Like if you want to get out of this matrix, develop your own principles. And I just have a few: mindfulness, meditation, like Mahatma Gandhi said, be the change that you wish to see.
Mhm.
Always send something ahead so you will have something when you get there. Gene Bryant. When you get broke, everybody's broke. Gene Bryant. Don't wear your sleeves on your shoulders, Gene Bryant. And don't stand outside because you are outstanding, Megan Thee Stallion. The secret is don't tell anyone the secrets. You have to believe you deserve what you want. That was Mr. Webb, just Brent. And then keep yourself busy. You won't have time for depression.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that last one is the truth, boy. Keep yourself busy. Folks be trying to. I'll tell you right now. I'm in a place of stillness, and the things that I've created to keep myself busy has definitely helped me to keep a sound mind. So take it from
Mm-hmm.
someone who has lived in a world of being isolated a little bit. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
that last statement is of truth. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Devil,
Oh, and that
devil
was about
loves an
truth too.
idle.
I told you. Go
Yes.
ahead. I'm sorry.
I was just gonna say the devil loves an idle mind. And if you keep your mind idle, it will take rain. It will definitely
Mm-hmm.
take rain. But okay, fantastic. All right, folks. That's a wrap. Thank you so much for joining us today here on Kinky Knots Cafes. Pro Active is the way. Take good care.